Cliff. Welcome to Tuscaloosa, Alabama, sir. I hope you're doing well.
I'm doing fine, and my pleasure.
Cliff, I think it's pretty unique that you have a job as a historian, man. I'm a little bit jealous because I think it's a wonderful. And is this typical with a lot of NFL teams, or because this is the first I've ever heard of an official team historian?
Yeah, the Packers had one, Lee Remmel, who had spent like 60 years with the organization PR. Previously had been a newspaper man, and I think he was the first in the early 2000s. And then our position was vacant for about 10 years, maybe, a little less. And then they hired me, and I think we were either the first or the second to at that point.
Well, you guys have obviously got a lot of great history, and we were talking about championships as I opened up the show, talking about Green Bay. I want to give you the flexibility to go where you need to go. What's your favorite Bart Starr story?
I think the Ice Bowl.
Okay.
That's a signature moment in our history. It's the moment that I think most people remember Bart for. And I think this is what made him special as a quarterback. They had talked during the week about running a trap play, what they called a sucker play against Bob Lilly. As everybody, I think, knows, they were behind. Wind chills minus 46. Temperature is about minus 16. And Bart leads them on that final drive. And I think it was the 13-minute, 58-second mark. He calls that trap play. And Chuck Mercy, they trap Bob Lilly. Run the play as executed. Chuck Mercy, kind of a journeyman fullback, gains 8 yards and sets them up at first and goal at the 3. And that leads to the touchdown. And then on the touchdown, which Bart suggested to Lombardi on the sideline, was a quarterback sneak. And that was the first time they ran it all year. I think that just kind of illustrates what his career was all about, better than anything.
Yeah, and I think the ties, you know, when you look at Bart Starr, I mean, his generation is, we're not connected. You know, there's nobody calls in our program that can remember from the 50s that we talk a lot about Bart Starr. You know, we transitioned to Steve Sloan and Kenny Stabler and Joe Namath. There's still people that can kind of recall those playing days. But I think it's Bart's Southern hospitality, that friendliness, that perfect gentleman that also echoes. He was a great football player, but he was also just an awesome individual too.
That's true, and I've done a lot of research on his time at Alabama, because it kind of ties in with what happened here in Green Bay. And it was 4 years before he won his first NFL game as a starting quarterback. Couldn't really get anybody to believe in him, and that was kind of what happened in Alabama. Sophomore year he starts, he leads them to the SEC championship. Red Drew, I found a quote where he said he was the best passer in Alabama history after one season. Then he injured his back. And then they bring in Jumbo years Whitworth. And
right.
I think, didn't they go winless, which I'm assuming is why nobody likes to remember that 3-year period in Alabama history. And he's got Bart Starr, somebody, the previous coach, who got fired when Bart was injured as a junior, felt was the best passer in Alabama history, and he turns his offense into one that needs a running quarterback, and Bart, by the end of the season, losing playing time to a converted halfback. I guess that's what brought about the Bear Bryant era, though, wasn't it?
Yes, sir. That started in 1958.
Yeah, if those 3 years hadn't have been so miserable, who knows?
Well, that's a great point. I mean, that's one that we certainly think about. When you look back at Bart Starr, when you look at his coaching side of things, can you kind of connect us with that era as well?
Well, I covered him when I was grew up in Green Bay, and I was a season ticket holder. By his season, I was 10 years old and a season ticket holder by his second season, and so I followed him all through his career. But then I came back to Green Bay in the early 1970s as a reporter for the Green Bay Press-Gazette, and ended up covering him. And the Press-Gazette had always been very supportive of the team. They probably had as much to do with the Packers' survival as the Packers themselves. But when they gave me the beat in '74, they said, "We want you to cover this team like the big city newspapers cover their team." And so I covered Bart throughout his coaching career, and it was not successful. We had our differences, kind of acrimonious, adversarial at times, but I didn't think it ever got personal, and I was honored just a week or two ago, I was given the Bart and Cherry Star Award at the Packers Hall of Fame banquet. And the family was on board with it, and it was a tremendous honor. I think that just, again, goes to show what kind of a man he was. And Cherry was, Cherry's part of the award too, and the same for her.
How will Green Bay honor Bart Starr there?
How will they?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I know that they've already recognized him, obviously, but his passing, will they do something special in a tribute to Bart Starr?
I think they planned some kind of a service in Green Bay. I had first heard that they wanted to do it sooner than later. I've since heard that they might tie it in with something during the season. There's a Paul McCartney concert at Lambeau next weekend, and then, shortly after that, in pro football, everybody vacates our building and comes back right before training camp. I'm assuming it's similar at University of Alabama too. So I think they're going to now wait until maybe the season starts and have some kind of a public service.
Well, I mean, he certainly made an impact on all of us here in this area. And, Cliff, we just want to say a big thank you to kind of helping us connect with the Green Bay history. We reached out to the Packers organization, and, man, you guys are all first class. I mean, it's been great to work with y'all's media relation department, helping me arrange some interviews, and I appreciate you coming on. Man, you guys are first class. I mean, it's kind of fun to be able to experience that. I don't cover a lot of the NFL, but you guys are refreshing to kind of deal with up there.
Well, thank you. And two of our greatest players from Alabama, Don Hudson and Bart Starr.
Sure. Well, I mean, okay. So, hey, connect us with Don Hudson since you're a historian, man. We don't know a lot about that era, but we know, Coach Bryant was the other end here in the early 30s.
Yeah, Hudson and, Dixie Howell, I think, that was the year before the Heisman was awarded. And I think if they had started giving out the Heisman the year before, Dixie Howell, the quarterback there, who ended up going into baseball, probably would have won the Heisman. But in the Rose Bowl was Howell to Hudson, and they beat Stanford and Frank Thomas, who was the coach at Alabama. And when I first looked it up, he was still the second winningest coach in Alabama history. I think Saban has now passed him, but so that's how successful a run that was. He followed Lambeau to Notre Dame by 1 year. So Lambeau played as a freshman 1918. Frank Thomas comes in 1919. He's a quarterback. And so there was a connection there, and Thomas tipped Lambeau off about Hudson. And the Packers end up signing him. That's also the last year before the NFL draft. Packers signed Hudson, and I mean, he broke just about every record there was for pass receiving.
Hey, Cliff, one more quick question. 1966, there's a quote out there from Vince Lombardi about the University of Alabama. I think somebody asked him if he was the best team in the world. He said, "We don't know yet. We haven't played Alabama." Is that an accurate quote?
I've never heard that before. So
Okay.
And I've done a lot of research, so I'm a little skeptical, but can't tell you that no way.
Okay. I figured when I've got the historian from Green Bay on, I figured I'd throw that question in because I've seen that one float around a little bit. You know how these myths get started a little bit.
Yeah, I find it hard to believe Lombardi would say something like that. He thought big, and I just find it hard to believe he'd say anything that would diminish the success of his own team. I mean, he liked to compare. He was from New York, and he loved to compare the Packers to the Yankees. That's what he bragged about, that they were the New York Yankees of football.
Well, there's no doubt, and we kind of claim that a little bit here. We use the New York Yankee thing here because I think all of us champions kind of have to deal with being scrutinized and hated and disliked and getting tired of Green Bay winning, getting tired of Alabama winning, and we kind of all go through the same thing together. Cliff, thank you again for helping us preserve the history of Bart Starr. We've really enjoyed our conversation, sir.
Okay, good luck to you.